Can Imu-sama grant immortality? In Chapter 1167, we learned from the Gorosei that the world government actually offers contracts to those who wish to become holy knights. These contracts are divided into 3 levels. First is the shallow sea contract, followed by the deep sea contract, and lastly, the deep sea contract. In this discussion, we will explain these contracts one by one, and also explore what other possible conditions and abilities might be included in them. So if you're ready, let's go. Let's begin our topic. First, let's talk about the shallow sea contract. According to the Gorosei, this is considered a minor pact or a small-scale agreement. This was the very first contract received by King Harold when the Gorosei initially granted him their blessing. Based on what we saw in Chapter 1167, Harold was given a mark or tattoo by the Gorosei, and they announced that his rank was God's Steel. In One Piece lore, ranks are extremely important in defining one's standing within the world government, especially among its elite forces. Now, who else may have received a similar contract to Harold? One clear example is Shanks. We learned this from a later chapter, where we also saw that Shanks bears a mark or tattoo similar to Harold's. This further strengthens the long-standing theory that Shanks has deep ties to the world government and possibly to the Holy Knights themselves. Aside from Shanks, we can also assume that Gunko received the same type of contract. During Chapter 1160, Gunko was reintroduced with the rank of God's Steel. Additionally, he was not included in the Holy Knights panel shown during the God Valley incident, which strongly implies that at that point in time, his rank was still God's Steel and not yet that of a full Holy Knight. Speaking of those not included in that panel, the masked figures introduced in Chapter 1096, along with the men who resemble Seti, the young prince, also seem to hold the rank of God's Steel at the moment. This is because Oda did not officially include them in the Holy Knights panel, which usually signifies full membership and a higher contract level. So what are the benefits of having a shallow sea contract, aside from receiving the rank of God's Steel? According to Chapter 1169, Imu can actually control those who bear the shallow sea contract mark. However, this control is limited by distance or radius. For example, Imu can control you if you are within Pangaea Castle, the very heart of the world government. But once you leave that area, Imu can no longer exert direct control over your body. This limitation suggests that the shallow sea contract is more of a probationary or test-level agreement. Next, we move on to the deep sea contract. With this contract, your rank is elevated from God's Steel to a full-fledged Holy Knight. One of the major benefits of this contract is a significant boost in power. Harold himself mentioned that he could physically feel his strength increase the moment he received the deep sea contract, which aligns with One Piece's recurring theme of supernatural power granted through external forces. The second ability granted by the deep sea contract is regeneration. This ability was clearly demonstrated by Gunku during his appearance in Elbaf, and similarly by Summers and Saint Mafi during the God Valley incident. Their wounds healed unnaturally fast, suggesting something beyond devil fruit abilities and more aligned with Imu's mysterious power. In addition to these abilities, those with a deep sea contract gain the power to communicate directly with Imu. As Harold explained, once you receive this contract, your physical body essentially belongs to Imu, which allows Imu to communicate with you no matter where you are in the world. This was confirmed in Chapter 1167, when Garling emphasized that he would give Harold a long-distance transponder snail. This implies that those with only a shallow sea contract lack long-distance communication abilities, even with Imu himself. Furthermore, if Imu can only control the body of a shallow sea contract holder within a limited area, then once someone receives a deep sea contract, Imu can fully control them regardless of location. This establishes a massive power gap between the two contracts. Another ability exclusive to deep sea contract holders is the creation of the Black Circle Star, which allows them to teleport other individuals who also possess deep sea contracts. We saw Gunku use this ability in Elbaf, and more recently, Harold was shown creating a Black Circle Star as well. This teleportation ability is extremely important, as it explains how the world government's strongest figures can appear instantly at critical locations. That concludes the summary of the benefits granted by the deep sea contract. Now, let's move on to the third and final contract, the deep sea contract. Everything discussed from this point onward is purely assumption, as this contract has not yet been fully revealed in the manga. However, if we assume that this contract is what the current Gorosei possess, then it is safe to say that it includes all the benefits of the deep sea contract: enhanced power, regeneration, Black Circle Star creation, and total control by Imu. In addition to those abilities, one major upgrade appears to be advanced communication. During the God Valley incident, Garling was still seen using a transponder snail, which suggests that deep sea contract holders can only communicate directly with Imu. In contrast, deep sea contract holders seem capable of communicating with each other, regardless of distance. We witnessed this clearly during the Egghead Island arc, where the Gorosei were able to converse despite being in entirely different locations. Another major benefit of the deep sea contract is immortality, or eternal life. This is somewhat confirmed by what we observed during the God Valley incident. Even back then, Gorosei Saturn already appeared old. Fast forward 38 years, and Saturn's appearance remains virtually unchanged. Meanwhile, St. Figureland Garling, who seemingly only had a deep-sea contract, clearly aged over time. The same aging was also observed in Summers and Shamrock, further supporting the idea that immortality is exclusive to the deep-sea contract. Lastly, another possible benefit of this contract is the ability to undergo a yokai transformation. This part is purely speculative, but it is based on the fact that all the Gorosei have demonstrated monstrous yokai-like forms. This raises excitement and curiosity about what kind of transformation St. Figureland Garling might obtain now that he has ascended to the rank of Gorosei. So this concludes our summary of the benefits tied to each contract granted by Imu-sama. Each contract has its own advantages and disadvantages, clearly defining the hierarchy within the world government's most secretive and powerful forces.